Lauren, Luvierte and her maid Rita are both captured by bandits, and Lauren was about to be manhandled by one of them. That is, until the arrival of a large armored knight named Ark, who promptly slays them with a single swipe of his sword. Before all of this, Ark awakens in front of a tree and is left perturbed by his situation. After calming himself down, he assesses himself and his equipment and realizes that he's inside of the body of his game character Ark. Recalling that he fell asleep after playing the game, Ark tries out his wyvern slash move and is left stupefied by the power behind it. Trying out magic next, Ark casts a simple fire spell that incinerates a tree, contemplating how he's able to use magic despite his class being incapable of doing so. Ark then surmises that he's able to utilize all of the previous skills from the upgrade path of his main skill Holy Knight, which led him to believe he's super strong. Growing hungry and sadly without food or funding, Ark casts a gate spell to teleport him somewhere, but is instead teleported off a cliff he stood close by. Reflecting on how the gate spell works, Ark instead uses another spell called Dimension Move. Landing safely by a river stream, Ark takes off his helmet to drink from it, but realizes that his head is that of a skeleton. Remembering that he chose the skeleton avatar back in his old world, Ark fathoms that if he entered a town without wearing his helmet, he'd be treated as a monster. Hence, he plans to try and avoid drawing any attention to himself and teleports to a nearby town. The name of the town is Luvierte, and after exploring the place a bit, Ark encounters a woman arguing with an investigator over his failure to obtain the information she hired him for. As it turns out, the woman was an elf, which amazes Ark, but he soon loses sight of her. He, however, then finds the town's Mercenary Guild and upon entering it, tries to acquire a license. Initially, the male receptionist claims that it'd be pointless for him to get one as he appears to be well employed already due to the armor he's wearing. So, Ark gives an excuse and the receptionist believes it, but informs him that before he can get one he'll have to pass a trial. The trial entails that Ark must bring back proof of subjugation of one of three things: a beast, monster, or bandit. Wasting no time, Ark leaves the guild as the receptionist, and a fellow guild member draw a conclusion to Ark's backstory of why he decided to join the guild. Afterward, Ark slays a couple of boars and then an orc. Carrying the proof of subjugation, Ark spots a group of bandits surrounding a carriage who slays the guards and surround a noble lady and her maid. Reflecting on how different the situation is from killing beasts or monsters, the bandits take advantage of the noble lady and her maid. We see again Ark slaying the bandits and this time finishing off the remaining bandits with his wyvern slash move. Once the bandits were dealt with, Ark checks upon the two ladies and learns of their names, and when Rita asks if Ark belongs to a noble, briskly, Ark comes up with a makeshift story of how he's a cursed knight that's on a journey to find a remedy for his condition, but withholds that from the two for now. As Rita and Lauren step into the forest to take care of themselves, Ark cremates the bandits' bodies with his fire spell, and notes his lack of guilt for killing them all. Before the ladies return, Ark loots the bandits' belongings and uses their horses to carry it all. Heading back to the town, Ark rides parallel to Lauren's carriage driven by Rita, who thanks Ark for what he did, while Lauren makes Ark feel uncomfortable as he puts it, staring holes into him. Rita then asks for Ark's name and he introduces himself as a humble traveler by the name of Ark. Back at the guild, Ark turns in his subjugated prey and receives a rune stone from the orc that he slew and is advised by the receptionist to remove them whenever you kill a monster. After a brief explanation of what runes can be processed into, Ark is given his license and he immediately checks into an inn and has the food served there delivered to his room. Indulging and imbibing in the food and drinks that he was served, Ark looks forward to completing some quests the following day. A single mother named Seona works hard for her two children, Marca and Helena. She heads to the field every morning as the sun rises. Wanting to help their mother, Marca writes a job request asking for help. Eventually, Ark accepts the job, which entails protecting someone as they collect herbs. He arrives at the job destination called Rada Village, and the village's gatekeeper directs him to Seona's home. Arriving at the location, both Marca and her sister Helena were eating breakfast when Ark knocks on the door and Marca answers it. Immediately bewildered by the large presence of Ark, who informs her that he accepted their job posting from the Mercenary Guild. A brief flashback shows an interaction between the guild receptionist and Ark about the job, and the receptionist suggests Ark be gentle with the client. Back in the present, Ark is served tea and Marca politely asks if they can start immediately, to which Ark accepts, and thus Marca prepares herself for the work ahead. En route to their destination, Ark mentions that the job details mentioned fang boars have appeared around the village necessitating protection. Hence, Ark asks why Marca is trying to complete this mission so quickly, and Marca confesses that her mother would be coming home soon and disapprove of what they're doing. She also asks that Ark keep this information from her mother and goes on to reveal that her father passed away the previous year and that her mother had been raising them by herself. Her mother took it upon herself to take up her father's job to collect herbs, and Marca wants to make her mom happy. The confession impresses and moves Ark's heart and is resolved to help Marca with her task to collect herbs. In the fields where some herbs called kakura are located, Marca gives Ark a lesson about the plant, which impresses Ark with how knowledgeable she is. Marca then suggests they head to the nearby kabumi tree, but some shaking in the bushes alerts him, and upon investigating it finds a wounded green multi-tailed monster. It bites Ark's finger when he extends a hand, and so Ark then uses healing magic on it to allow it to heal from its wound. Elated, the monster gleefully scurries around Ark and decides to follow him. Marca suggests that Ark name the creature, and after a bit of a naming session, Ark decides the name of Ponta. Back in the village, a hunter is distraught by something he saw in the forest that wasn't the usual fang boar that would be normally encountered in the forest. As it so happens, Seona arrives back in the village and hears from the gatekeeper that Marca left for the forest earlier that morning with a knight. Returning to Ark's group, they find the kabumi tree in full bloom, and the moment Marca approaches the tree, a giant basilisk appears from behind it. Noticing Ponta's upset behavior toward the beast, Ark deduces that the one responsible for injuring her was the monster. Before the basilisk could stomp on Marca, Ark briskly pulls her out of the way and then avoids its poison fog breath attacks. Analyzing the basilisk's attacks while defending against its paralyzing claws and whip-like tongue, Ark then uses his holy shield of 2 dates to defend against a petrification attack. After this, Ark uses his judgment attack that slices the monster in half, thereby defeating it. Happy that the monster was defeated, Marca notes that the villagers will celebrate the monster's death, but Ark requests that it be kept a secret, and Marca understands. Ark then notices a ring around the monster's right ankle that disappears moments after it was spotted. It's deduced by Ark that the fang boars that appeared close by the village were drawn there by the basilisk. As it so happens, one appears before them and Ark slays it and presents it as a gift to the village, but notes he'd take the boar's fangs and rune stone as payment. He also intends that the hide be tanned and given to Marca, and the meat would be divided among the villagers. Marca then reunites with her mother Seona, who embraces her daughter, and Ark formally apologizes to Seona for recklessly allowing her daughter to go into the forest. The village gatekeeper and hunter then approach Ark and ask him if he ran into the monster that was wreaking havoc in the forest, but he denies it, as does Marca. By dusk, Ark and Ponta get ready to leave, and Ark is given a circlet of flowers by Helena. Later that night within the forest, a large group of soldiers slay a giant basilisk of their own. The leader is given a status report of the total number of deceased and injured soldiers by his subordinate, and about how a single person managed to slay a giant basilisk by themselves. Amazed by this feat, the leader surmises that the one who slew it must be either a god or devil. Meanwhile, Ark enjoys himself in his room with Ponta and considers taking on a more challenging quest the next day. Ariane's inner monologue notes how the elf and human treaty is nothing more than a farce at that point in time, and that she seeks more power. It was the encounter with a large man in silver armor that would change her destiny, as she spots Ark with Ponta on his shoulder exiting a cave and prepares to attack him. Before this encounter, Ark was chasing a group of bandits inside of the cave, and after they were dealt with, Ark finds their hoard of treasure. He also spots a couple of cages there, but pays no mind to them. Elsewhere, in Dinto, Marquis Triton hears from his cohort Celsica about the failed assassination attempt on Lauren's life. As for the beasts that were set loose in Luvierte, they were the giant basilisks, which were both individually slain. The news disheartens Triton, and Celsica asks why Prince Dakares was targeting the area in the first place. Triton, on the other hand, has no clue, but surmises it's from His Highness backers from the Eastern Empire. It's also noted that they cannot allow any information to leak that they're in allegiance with Dakares to come to light, or else that would complicate matters with Prince Sect. Henceforth, Triton orders that the product must be secured and sent to the market, and that Princess Ariane not become aware of this. Celsica assures that it will be done, and Triton then asks about his son Udalan, and Celsica details that he was escorting the product, which Triton scornfully disapproves of. Back to Ark. He's attacked by Ariane and recognizes her as the elf from the city. Ariane accuses Ark of being a bandit, but stops attacking him after she sees Ponta and recognizes her as a spirit creature. This clears the suspicion of Ark being a bandit, and Ariane discloses that she heard that bandits that were located there were hunting elves. Realizing that's what the cages he found in the cage were for, Ark informs Ariane that no elves were found in there, and then learns from her that elves are sold for a high price on the slave market. Before Ariane runs off, Ark tries to offer his help, but Ariane flatly rejects the offer and runs off. Despite being rejected, Ark is adamant to help as he considers it an event quest of some sort. Back at his room at the inn, Ark enjoys his dinner and talks about his time with Ariane, who did not introduce herself to him. But still, he hopes to see her again and plans to seek her out the following day. Warping into a place that he had suspected was close to the elven forest, Ponta then senses some presence nearby. It turns out it was a young elven girl trying to escape from her captors, but is soon caught. The aforementioned Udalan was the leader of the bandit captors, who not only taunts the girl for trying to escape, but also stabs her in the leg as well. Ark watches it all as it unfolds, and before he could make a move, Ariane appears and takes out a couple of bandits with a single swipe. One of the bandits recognizes Ariane as a dark elf, a rare type of elf, and would fetch a great price, which Udalan claims that he doesn't care for her, and the bandits are to do whatever they please with her. A large number of bandits then surround Ariane, but she instantly defeats them, and one of the remaining bandits recognizes Ariane as an elven warrior. Once Ariane takes out nearly all of the remaining bandits, Ariane is caught in a pinch when Udalan takes one of the elven girls hostages. Seeing an opportunity to help, Ark appears behind Udalan and uses his armor lariat attack against him, which KOs him. The remaining bandits are then dealt with by Ariane. The elven captives were rescued, and Ariane notices that the captives wore mana-eating collars. Unaware of what such a collar is or does, Ariane explains that it suppresses their ability to use their spirit magic. Ark casts an curse on one of the elven girls and then heal the wounds on the girl. This act leaves Ariane amazed at how he was able to accomplish such a feat with little incantation. Soon, Ark removes the remaining collars on the rest of the elven girls. Ariane summons her spirit creature, a whispering fowl, to relay a message about the rescued elves. Eventually, a couple of cloaked elves arrive at the scene and pick up the formerly captive elven girls. With the elven girls out of the picture, Ariane recounts the skills and abilities that Ark displayed and demands to know who he really is, but Ark assures that he is no one of any importance. Just as the whispering fowl returns and relays a message from someone claiming that the main perpetrator's HQ was located in Dinto, and that they're going to make a move on there soon. In light of this, Ariane asks to hire Ark for his services. Ariane requests to hire Ark, who considers that her comrades will act apprehensively towards him, but she's willing to trust that they'll accept him the same way she does. So, Ark accepts Ariane's offer. Using the magic spell Gate, Ark teleports the group to Little River, which surprises Ariane as she notices Dinto in the distance. The reason why Ark teleported them to that spot by the river was that he didn't want to cause a commotion in the city. When they arrive in the city, they wait for Danka, who Ark is shocked by the severe look on his face. Once Ariane gives a brief introduction of Ark to Danka, they decide to reconvene at a restaurant. There, Ariane formally introduces Danka to Ark, and he notices that Danka has maple in his name too, which leads him to believe that they're related. Ariane then informs Ark of the nomenclature of elves. Ark then tries to ask Danka a question, but he's too preoccupied with his beef skewer and beer. After finishing those off, Danka coldly asks who Ark is, and Ariane explains Ark's backstory and that he can use teleportation magic. Confirming that he can use teleportation magic, Ponta appears by his shoulder and Danka recognizes him. Impressed by this news, Danka then discloses the location of their target area within the theater district. It's decided that they'll wait until nightfall when the security is most lax. In light of that, Ark and Ponta leave for an hour to prepare themselves, and Ariane says they'll be waiting there for him. With Ark gone, Danka notes that he's surprised that she asked for help from an outsider. In her confession, she admits that she was adequate in trying to rescue the captured elves and claims that her sister would have had no trouble in accomplishing it. Danka then says that one day, she should be able to stand in the same acclaim as her sister, but asks if they can really trust Ark, and she reaffirms it. Meanwhile, Ark is shown to have cashed in the bandit bounties and possessions. Now with some gold, Ark buys a meal for himself and enjoys it with Ponta. Elsewhere, the captive elves' location is revealed, and one of the elves proclaims that they'll be rescued and that the bandits will be punished. The bandits, however, pay no mind to the warning. That night, the group heads out to their destination, all while being tailed by an unknown person. Using Dimension Move, Arc teleports the group to the rooftop of their destination. After Ariane struggles to get inside the building, Arc uses Dimension Move again to teleport Danka, Ponta, and himself into the building. Searching around the inside of the building, they find that some of the bandits were killed. From there, they all split up to investigate the building so they can cover more ground. Arc uses Dimension Move to cover the sound of his tracks as he moves around the building, and the moment he finds more dead bandits in a room, he's attacked by a ninja. Exuberant over this discovery, the ninja asks Arc how he knows that she's a ninja, but calms down after seeing Ponta. The ninja deduces that Arc is there for the enslaved elves and then gives him a roll of paper which she claims will be of use to him, the location of the elves. She also notes that she was unable to locate her own objective there, and then gives Ponta a sprig of berries. As a show of remorse, the ninja informs Arc that there are 2 more elves being held captive in the Lord's palace. The papers which the ninja gave Arc turn out to be paper contracts for elven slaves, and Arc shows this to both Ariane and Danka while also mentioning there are 2 more elves in the Lord's palace. When asked about where he found the papers, Arc claims that he found them on one of the bandits there. At that moment, 3 bandits enter the room Arc's group is in and are swiftly dealt with by Ariane. Down in the basement area, the elven girls are freed by Arc's group and the elves are thankful for being rescued by them. Gate is cast by Arc, and outside, he notices the magic-eating collars around the elves' necks and uses Uncurse to dispel them. This feat astonishes Dank. As the elves thank Arc, Danka tells Ariane that it's not over yet, and that he'll lead the elves home safely. He also leaves Arc and Ariane to take care of rescuing the remaining 2 elves held captive in the Lord's palace. Arc then uses Dimension Move to reach the Lord's palace. Watching them from afar was the ninja accompanied by another ninja, and she comments that they'll meet again someday. Having 2 elven ladies by the names of Seona and Una restrained on his bed, Triton prepared to have his way with them, but first chastises his son, Udalan, for his recent failure. Elsewhere, Arc and Ariane manage to successfully land on Triton's mansion and catch the attention of a couple of guards. Using his wyvern slash, Arc slices the bell there that allowed distraction, allowing them to infiltrate the place. At that moment, Celsica informs Triton about the intruders in the mansion, and when he claims that the invaders are monsters, the door behind him explodes. After the smoke starts to fade and settle, from the newly created hole in the wall stands Arc and Ariane, who claim they'll rescue the restrained elves. Ariane then incapacitates Triton, while Arc scares the daylights out of Udalan and in the process finds a hidden room. Arc was going to inform Ariane of this find, but she and the other elves were far too busy punishing Triton, which irks both Arc and Ponta. Just then the guards of the mansion arrive and Ariane uses a fire spell on her sword to attack the guards and asks that the elves meet with Danka. The 2 elves then leave and Ariane goes to check up on Arc, who loots the gold from the hidden room. Caught in the middle of the act, Arc claims that he's prohibiting the Dinto family from rebuilding in the future, and Ariane buys it. Several bombs are detonated across the mansion, and because of this, Arc and Ariane teleport to a safe location. Although the pay that Ariane had in store for him was inadequate, she offers Arc to accompany her to the Elven lands where more elves are being held captive. The proposal internally elates Arc. However, he questions whether someone like him will be well welcomed in the lands, and Ariane admits that she'd have to talk with the elders. In response to that, Arc claims he can never take off his armor and Ariane asks why, to which Arc asks if she'd turn her sword on him if she saw his face, and she promises that she wouldn't. Hence, Arc takes off his helmet and shows Ariane his true visage and a brief explanation of his past, claiming that he's suffering from a curse that has his appearance transformed. Deducing that he's not of the undead and placing her trust in him for helping her out so far, Ariane claims he'll be welcomed in the land of elves. Furthermore, the elder may be able to help him change back into his original form. To that, the 2 formally introduce themselves and shake on their newly formed relationship. In Olav, the capital of the Rodan Kingdom, King Carlon holds a meeting with his children, Princes Sect and Dakairs, and Princess Ariane about the recent events surrounding Triton. Sect mentions that Triton was illegally selling elves to the eastern country, which Dakairs refutes, but Sect claims that Dakairs is standing up for him. The comment upsets Dakairs, who speaks defensively, but is stopped by King Carlon and speaks in favor of Dakairs while claiming a full investigation must be had before any conclusion would be drawn. King Carlon then asks for Ariane's opinion on the matter, and she claims that she heard the rumors being spread about the elven slaves causing the imposed treaty to be broken. That would thereby cause raised tensions with their kingdom and other nations. Hence they need to ascertain the truth immediately. She also mentions the backlash from the elves themselves, and Sect mentions that the other nations would hold them responsible. Therefore, King Carlon assigns Ariane to visit Limbolt and negotiation any tensions that have arisen there and concludes the meeting. Alone in the room, Carlon thinks about how the situation has become a big mess. Ark and the party walk through a dense forest and Ark decides to use Dimension Move to scout ahead and ends up falling down a small cliff that was by a small running stream. They decide to make camp there, and that night, Danka has a whisper bird deliver a message to Ariane informing her the elves they rescued are in his care. Ark then asks how far is it until they reach their destination of Lalatoya, and Ariane answers that they should reach there within 2 nights. Because Ariane was still hungry, Ark leaves to hunt a boar, leaving Ariane to spend time along with Ponta. Upon returning to the camp with a freshly caught boar, Ark catches Ariane cuddling with Ponta. In light of this, Ark plans to have some cuddle time with Ponta, which embarrasses Ariane immensely. Sometime later in Olaf, Ariane is served tea by her maid Ferna. As she goes to drink it, she mentions her suspicions that her brother Dakaris is involved in the elf trade incident, and that sects will go after him about it. Ferna then claims that either sect Ariane will get the throne, but Ariane warns her not to speak so carelessly. To Ariane's reasoning, what must be focused on is the matter of negotiations with the elves in Limbolt, and nothing more. Ferna understands and claims that she'll get to see her sister Siriarna again, and Ariane takes pleasure in knowing that. Meanwhile, Ark and Ariane arrive at their destination of Lalatoya. Upon arriving at Lalatoya, Ariane requests that she be let passage inside and be granted an audience with the elder. The gate to the village opens, and Ariane asks that Ark wait there for her until she returns. Ark remains outside the gate until dusk, until finally he's allowed inside, and follows Ariane to the elder's house, where he enjoys the scenery of the village. At the elder's home, Ark and Ariane are met by the elder and his wife Dylan Tog Lalatoya, and Glenys Ulna Lalatoya, both of whom are Ariane's parents. Dillion formally thanks Ark for all of his achievements towards the Elven village, but he does rebuke Ariane for attacking Triton's manor. Ark then chimes in on the conversation and, inside their home, explains the situation in full to Dillion. Understanding the problem at hand, Dillion says that he'll inform the other elders in Maple to alert them of the trafficking contract that was uncovered. After explaining the situation, Glenys arrives with dinner, but Ark is anxious to eat due to his condition. However, it's learned that Glenys and Dillion already know of Ark's condition, and he's allowed to eat the food without fear. The following morning, Ark wakes up and learns that Ariane and Dillion have already left from Glenys. Glenys then gives Ark a tour of the village and knows a bit of the village history from her. 2 young girls then approach Ark, who thank him for rescuing them from the slavers. Apologizing to Glenys for his distraction, she tells Ark that it's alright and requests to spar with him. Meanwhile, Ariane and Dylan listen to the elders debate on how to proceed with the humans violating the 400-year treaty about enslaving elves. The result of the discussion is settled by Elder Brian Bond Evangeline Maple, who suggests they observe the Rodent Kingdom's reaction to the attack on the Lord's Manor. Returning to Ark, he spars against Glenys, who quickly overwhelms him with her swordplay during their sparring match together. As Ariane and Dylan walk out of the Elder's Coven, Ariane formally apologizes to her father about the meeting outcome. Still, Dylan assures her that the result could have been better, but also worse. However, Dylan laments not being able to meet even while they were there and informs Ariane that Even is getting married next year. The news perturbs Ariane as her sister's nature is akin to a battle maniac. Even appears out of nowhere and tackles Hugs to the ground. Despite seeing his daughter in evident distress by her sister's antics, Dylan leaves the two, and they soon talk about Ariane's recent accomplishment and Even's upcoming marriage. Back to Ark again. He finishes his spar training with Glenys and later enjoys a soothing bath with Ponta. Eventually, Ariane arrives home and readies herself to take a bath, only to find Ark already in there and acts apprehensively. Afterward, before their dinner, Dylan briefs Ark on the current situation decided by the elders. He also hires Ark to hunt down the names on the contract while also freeing any elves he encounters. Admitting that the pay he'd receive for the job would be inadequate, Dylan bargains with Ark and offers him information on how to break his curse to make up for his reward. Dylan then informs Ark of a magical spring near Lord Crown that can remove curses. However, it's also a place where the Dragon Lord makes its home, and to add to that danger are the spirit animals who also inhabit the area. Because of the risks it imposes on a human, an elf would have to act as a mediator to be granted access there. Ark accepts this reward, but internally notes how his curse was an RP thing. Ariane then claims she'll join Ark in his quest, and Ark accepts the search. In bed, Ark ponders whether or not his skeletal avatar is a curse or not. However, if his condition was a curse, he'd be able to dispel it with one of his spells. However, spells such as those hurt the undead and could harm him. Ark casts Uncurse on himself to test this theory, and to his amazement, it works without inflicting any harm. Ark and group set out for Olav, the capital of the Rodent Kingdom, and Ark reflects on how his skeleton body is in fact due to a curse. Although he can cast an Uncurse spell on himself to cure his condition, the effects are sadly temporary. Soon the group makes it out of the forest they tracked through and reaches a small pond where giant dragonflies inhabited. The giant dragonflies immediately attack Ark and chase him as he tries to flee from them. In a village pub, Ark admits to Ariane that he's afraid of insects, and while they enjoy dinner, discuss their plans forward through the next forest. Their waitress admonishes them from cutting through the forest due to its infestation of monsters called haunted wolves. Understanding that Ariane wants to go through the forest so they can rescue the elves faster, Ark and Ponta both agree to follow her through the forest. The following day, at Olav, Ariane accompanied by her attendee Furna settle in their horse-driven carriage. It's planned to regroup with their guards midway in the nearby forest to keep up a fast pace and reach the Grand Duchy of Limbold with all possible haste. Unbeknownst to them, they were being closely watched from the shadows by an elusive figure. Back to Ark's group, they close in on where the haunted wolves are said to be. Ariane then talks about how the monster's tail fur is used to make veils, which are wonderful gifts for brides-to-be. She then says that her sister is soon to be wed, and Ark surmises that she'd like the tail fur to create a present for her sister's wedding. At that moment, they're attacked by haunted wolves, which most are illusions cast by the wolves. They both handle themselves against the haunted wolves, and soon Ark locates the leader of the pack. Confronting the pack leader, Ark sees that it has a similar ring attached to its leg that he once found on a giant basilisk. Ark manages to cut the ring off of the pack leader, which allows it to regain control of itself and call its pack members to regroup with it and leave. Soon, Ariane regroups with Ark and learns from him about the rings he found on the haunted wolf and giant basilisk that attacked them in the past. After that explanation, they take a brief rest, allowing Ariane to harvest the dead haunted wolf's tail fur. Meanwhile, Ariane's carriage progresses through the forest, and Ariane confesses her thoughts on the mission her father imposed on her. She is fully aware that her brother Dakars is the ringleader responsible for the Elven slaves, and that her other brother sect would allow things to play out without getting involved. Just then the carriage starts to shake and a couple of the guards outside shout that they're under attack. Returning to Ark's group, Ariane prepares to skin the tail fur from the wolves, and Ponta hears a disturbance in the distance and heads for it. Ark follows him, and Ariane stays behind to prepare the wolf's tail fur. At Ariane's carriage, both Ariane and Furna are slain by one of 6 hooded assailants, and one of Ariane's guards was an accomplice. Just then, Ponta followed by Ark arrive at the scene. As Ark examines Ariane and Furna, the assailants launch multiple fire, beretta, and rock shot at Ark, who is invulnerable to the attacks. Assessing whether or not he should cast a spell to revive both Furna and Ariane, Ark is shocked to see that the haunted wolves from before attacked the assailants. Ark joins the attack, and they manage to take out a few of them while the rest escape from the scene. Once that was all settled, the wolves take their leave, and Ark decides to cast regeneration on Ariane, Furna, and as many of her guards as he so can. While Ark does this, Ariane briefly regains consciousness and thinks Ark is an angel. Awakening from her unconscious state thanks to Furna, Ariane learns from her that they were healed somehow, and so were most of their guards. Considering their revival as an act of God, she proclaims this to the remaining guard troops of hers. Ark witnesses Ariane give the proclamation from afar and then regroups with Ariane, who had finished her personal task, and they continue forward. Finally, at Olav, they nearly get involved in a fight between a young lady and 3 angry men who are easily dealt with by the young lady, who turns out to be the ninja girl. Chiyome thanks Ariane and Ark for freeing the enslaved people back in Dinto, and introduces herself as a member of the Genshin clan's 6 ninjas. They then change their location to a room in an inn, and there Ark introduces himself and Ponta while Ariane introduces herself. Changing the subject, Chiyome asks Ark why he addressed her as a ninja back in Dinto, and Ark claims that ninja exists where he comes from. Surprised by this, Chiyome claims that Ark may be from the exact location where the great founder, who lived 600 years ago, was from. Internally, Ark thinks that 600 years ago, another person from his world came there and started his ninja village. Ariane then asks why Chiyome wanted to talk with Ark, and she requests that he help her save her comrades. In light of this, Ark mentions that he's already contracted to help Ariane save a bunch of elves. As Ark contemplates the situation, Ariane asks Chiyome if she's been rescuing people since a young age, and she confirms it. Ariane relates with Chiyome on that fact and decides to help her on her quest to save the enslaved beast people. In the royal castle, Prince Dakers throws a fit about the haunted wolves stop taking orders. Another man there named Centurion speculates that the rings on the wolves may have been broken somehow, and that Ariane is likely to be alive. This would pose a severe problem to Dakers' plans to stop the negotiations between the elves and her. Dakers then asks who the perpetrators were, and Centurion responds that they were likely elves and would have eventually arrived in Olaf. Following Centurion's advice, Dakers takes a carriage to a safe house of his. Meanwhile, Ark and the group walk through a forested area, and Chiyome informs Ark that the founder of her village wasn't a beastman, but a human named Hanzo. She reveals that Hanzo was once a spy for the Revlon Empire who took it upon himself to take in underprivileged beastmen in his care and train some of them too, reaching their destination, the largest slave market in Olaf, Enslaved Market. By dusk, Chiyome goes over the plan and asks that both Ariane and Ark act conspicuously, and then make a quick escape when they're done. Chiyome admits that she doesn't believe that everyone involved in this will be able to escape. Ark then asks if Enslaved is a decoy, and Chiyome confirms it by mentioning the other 4 slave markets in Olaf will be targeted. Chiyome hopes the sacrifices will be minimal with their help, but Ark and Ariane are resolved to help to the bitter end. Confident in his teleportation magic, Ark learns from Chiyome that Hanzo could use space-time ninjutsu. Elated to hear this, Chiyome goes off to notify her comrades, tells Ark and Ariane that the assault on the market will take place that night, and advises them to prepare themselves. Ark and Ariane then return to their room at the inn and enjoy dinner, and afterward, Ark dons a new mask, and they're soon met by Chiyome and her companion Gomen. Hearing Gomen's name, Ark asks Chiyome if that's her real name, which she answers it's not, but rather a title given to the most skilled in their clan. Once this is revealed, Gomen gets into a scuffle with Ark, but they immediately bond after this. It's decided that Ariane and Chiyome will attack the front, while Ark and Gomen will attack the rear. Wasting no time, Ark and Gomen approach the back gate, and Gomen casts Stone Smasher on himself to help Ark break through the front door. Inside the place, Ark takes out several guards, and Gomen casts Arm Bracer, which transforms his body into hardened steel that breaks the weapons of those who attacked him. Ark then casts Rock Shot, which takes out more of the enemy soldiers that are there and gives off a menacing laugh, which terrifies them. Taking advantage of the situation, Gomen casts Rock Spear Strike and Ark adds to it with his Rock Fang. However, this caused a cumulative effect around the area, causing their spells to affect the entire area. On the opposite side of the fort, Chiyome and Ariane manage to get past the front gate and head toward the market. During the night of the attack on the Enslaved market, Dakers and Cetrion's safe haven learns from the said person that the market is under attack, as well as 4 other slave markets as well. Dakers demands that reinforcements be sent to the places under attack and notes his frustration about his situation. At the Enslaved market, Chiyome, Ariane, and Ponta infiltrate the place, and a couple of guards soon accosts them. The guards are quickly dealt with by Chiyome's ninjutsu, Liquid Wolf Fang. A quartet of guards is alerted, and Ariane uses her fire magic to deal with them. They then reach the cells where the slaves are held, and Chiyome announces herself as part of the Jinshin clan who's there to rescue them all. As Chiyome opens some of the cells, more guards arrive and are swiftly dealt with by Ariane. Outside in the market compound, Ark and Gomen arise from the rubble and are soon joined by Chiyome's group, who informs them of the Beast People's whereabouts. Gomen decides to stay alone and defend the area if reinforcements arrive, leaving Ark and the others to return to the market and free more of the slave held captive. Once they do, Chiyome finds a pile of dead bodies, and a slave informs them that slaves who were sick or injured were disposed of. Ark pulls Chiyome together, and they all regroup with the slave in the hall, who are then teleported out by Ark's magic in large groups. Once that was settled, Ark returned to the market compound to assist the injured and belaboured Gomen. With Ark using his Rock Fang and Gomen using his Rock Spear Strike, they managed to decimate the reinforcements without a hassle. After this, the two reconvene with Ariane and Chiyome and bring along the deceased slaves' bodies. Once the bodies are properly and respectively laid out on the ground, Ariane cremates them, and as Chiyome watches this, she vows to become stronger. Meanwhile, Dakers is assassinated by Cetrion, who is in cahoots with Prince Sect, who learns from Cetrion about the freed slaves and Uriarna's supposed demise. Pleased by the news, Sect asks Cetrion to spread the news of Uriarna's death and relishes that he now is the sole heir to the throne. Returning to Ark's group, both Ark and Gomen have another manly bonding moment with each other, and Chiyome restates her vow to Ariane that she hopes to become stronger. Time passes and Ark's group returns to Olaf. They ride on a boat steered by Gomen and learn from Chiyome that Gomen and her will head to a hidden village in the Calcut Mountains. She then claims that she'll give them the important information she had promised them. In the Grand Duchy of Limbold, Ariane reaches her sister Siriarna's castle and she learns from her sister about her supposed demise. Inside the castle, Siriarna informs Ariane and her attendee Ferna how news of Dakar's killed her and was sequentially slain by Cetrian. Evidence of her death was inferred solely from the fact that the necklace that she always wore from their mother was found. Ferna then notes that the same necklace went missing. After contemplating the situation over, Ariane tells her sister not to inform her father about her survival, and instead hopes to continue her duty by speaking to the elves. Back to Ark's group, Ariane relays a message through a whisper bird so Danka can be brought up to date with the current events. A flashback of the information given by Chiyome that the location of the remaining Elven slaves are at the Holy Revlon Empire. As they head to the east toward the Empire, Ark wonders why Ariane's attitude changed so much, but wonders more about what new adventures lie ahead of them in the said empire. Meanwhile, in the imperial capital of the Holy Revlon Empire, Emperor Domitianus learns of the death of Dakar's from his chancellor Velmoas. Although pleased by the news that Ariane is dead, Velmoas informs Domitianus that the rings they provided to Dakar's were broken, and that a third person is involved in killing the princess. Domitianus speculates that Sect was the likely one to do it and asks about Fumba's progress in bringing Olaf to ruin. Velmoas happily announces that his progress is coming along smoothly. Elsewhere, a worm-like monster with a ring attached to it kills a flying creature as Fumba himself observes from a safe location. In a barren wasteland, a flock of sand wyverns flies in the sky and Ark becomes super excited by their presence. On the other hand, Ariane notes that it's because of them that the whisper bird is too afraid to fly and deliver a message to Danka. Hence, Ark casts the AoE spell Lightning Damper to disperse the wyverns from the area. However, it works too well as it affects Ariane, the whisper bird, and Ponta too. As Ark checks up on the group and frantically tries to deduce what went wrong, unbeknownst to him, someone was watching and taking notes on him. By dusk, the group reaches a town, and Ark formally apologizes for his actions after he tried to disperse the wyverns. From there, Ariane discloses the plan on how they'll reach the Revlon Empire, and Ark mentions Ariane's attitude since Chiyome informed them about the Empire. To her admission, Ariane claims that unlike the Rodan Kingdom Elven, slavery is allowed and her being an elf is notably disconcerting. They're then approached by the person spying on them before. He introduced himself as Carcy Held, an elven monster researcher. Before Carcy could fully introduce himself, Ariane puts a pot over his head and warns him that being an elf in a human settlement is dangerous. However, contrary to that notion, Carcy was a regular in the bar and was greeted warmly by its patrons. With a mug of beer, Carcy explains to them that he's lived in the town for 10 years and deduces that Ariane happens to be a dark elf. He also mentions that he hopes humans and elves can one day coexist, although Ariane notes that Carcy's carefree attitude toward living with humans is appalling. However, Carcy argues that Ariane is a hypocrite, noting she's traveling with a human in full-plated armor accompanied by a spirit animal. To that point, Ariane claims that Ark is a special case, and he then asks Carcy what his business is with them. Carcy then requests that they help him with his research on monsters, and Ariane flatly refuses, but Carcy offers them a map of the Revlon Empire as a reward for their services. Upon hearing this, Ariane calls out Carcy for eavesdropping on their conversation, but Ark believes the map is a valuable item for their journey. The deal is sweetened when Carcy offers a bestiary as well, which Ark convinces Ariane to agree to the request. After that is settled, Darcy agrees to the job, and Carcy informs the two to meet him at the town entrance the next day. Afterward, Ark pays for the room and board at the inn, and the bar innkeeper gives them a whole barrel of alcohol for their troubles. Inside their room, Ark and Ariane enjoy the alcohol while talking about Carcy's dream of elves and humans coexisting. Amid this, Ariane gets drunk and apprehensive toward Ark. The morning after, Ariane wakes up with a hangover and mistakes Ark for a skeleton in her room. Later, they meet with Carcy, who introduces them to his companion and informs them that the whole town heard them last night. Hearing this makes Ariane want to kill Carcy, but Ark stops her. Ariane is shown to be rather ill thanks to the combination of her hangover, motion sickness, and not to mention the awful smell coming from their cart. Carcy explains that the awful smell was goblin corpses, and they'll be used as bait for catching a sandworm. The human companion of Carcy then gives Ark a bottle of tea for Ariane's hangover, but she's hesitant to take it. However, Carcy assures her that his friend is trustworthy. Ariane then drinks it and compliments its delicious taste, making Carcy's companion smile. Ark then asks for information on the sandworm they're hunting, and Carcy elaborates on it. Ariane then notices that the cart behind them is gone, and then the sandworm in question appears and is considerably bigger than expected. Spotting Carcy's companion by the broken cart, Ariane tries to rescue him, but is ambushed by the sandworm, so she tries to exploit its weakness to fire with a fire spell. However, her attack against it was futile, and the sandworm tries to attack her, but Ark manages to save her in the nick of time, allowing her and Carcy's companion to retreat to a safe location. Taking advantage of the situation, Ark pulls the sandworm out from the ground and, using his immense strength, slams it to the ground. Once the sandworm was knocked out, the attached ring disappeared. Later that day, the sandworm is tied up and brought back to the town. There, Carcy gives the two their reward, but Ariane asks Carcy why he lives amongst humans before they journey forth. A tad surprised by the question, Carcy answers that he figures he loves them. Carcy explains that his experience in the village he was raised in wasn't pleasant. Although Carcy's impression was near the same when he moved to his current residence, he's grown to love humans and foresees a time when humans and elves can coexist. Despite Carcy's dream, Ariane doesn't believe it's possible. Carcy then asks if she's ever heard of Lambert Town, which is a port in Roden governed by a human named Petros du Lambert, and his wife Teresa. Hearing this astonishes Ariane, who thinks Carcy is lying and that the marriage was under coercion if it's true. However, Carcy assures Ariane that it wasn't Petros who saved Teresa from slavery, and after they developed feeling for each other, they got married. Since then, they hope to improve the relationships between elves and humans. Ark and Ariane then continue their journey and discuss the possibility of coexisting between humans and elves. Meanwhile, an unnamed man from Revlon reports to Fumba as he fondles a couple of women by his side about the recent number of missing people. Fumba then shows the man the monster he has in store for the next attack and feeds one of his women to it, making the Revlon man sick to his stomach. Arriving at the border town of Kasek, Ark figures they've finally arrived in the Revlon Empire, the place where the captured elves were being imprisoned in. Because of the tight security in the vicinity, they decide to ask around town while trying not to draw attention themselves. By dusk, Ark reviews what he's learned that noises are coming from the castle, and that people from the town have mysteriously disappeared over time. However, there's still no word about elves being held captive there. Before Ark and Ponta regroup with Ariane, they hear a woman screaming and find a lady in an alleyway being confronted by a trio of men. Ark arrives at the scene and deals with the brutes. Soon, Ariane arrives and after seeing Ark with the lady at his bosom, suggests she leaves, and terrified of Ariane's malignant voice, the lady scurries off. That night in his fortress, Fumba learns from the three men who tried to capture the lady in the alleyway of their failure, so he feeds them to his white tiger monster. Outside of the fortress, Ark and the group proceed toward the fortress while Ark notes Ariane's prickly nature. Once inside the fortress, Ariane locates a hidden stairway, and as they walk down it, the pungent smell of beasts is noted. At the bottom of the stairs, the two guards guarding the solid iron gate are swiftly dealt with. However, Ariane has trouble trying open it. Ark then tries and figures out that it slides open, which upsets Ariane that a door functions like that. Behind the gates were rows of jail cells reeking an intense stench, and Ariane finds bits of animal fur littered across the ground. Ponta then finds another iron gate that Ark opens, and behind it, the group finds a massive underground space with pillars all around the area. Fumba then arrives and notes that he came to investigate what was alerting his monsters. He then spots Ariane and, finding her pretty, orders her to be his and deal with Ark. Seemingly possessed, Ariane attacks Ark and reveals that she's a dark elf, which gets Fumba elated and riled up. He then demands that Ariane deal with Ark faster, so Ark tries to use Uncurse on her, but it doesn't work. Ariane has a dream where she's met by her sister Even underneath a large tree who says it's time for them to train. Even's reason is that Ariane is weak, and weakness is evil, and to combat this, she has to become strong, so she can protect the elves being captured by humans. Even then demands that Ariane draw her sword and show just how strong she is. Back in reality, Ark casts Uncurse multiple times, which never works. Ark accesses the situation about Ariane's condition and spots something in Ariane's hood and has Ponta deal with it. Ponta finds an imp inside of her hood and once revealed, Ark casts Fireball to eliminate it. As a reward for Ark figuring out his trick for possessing Ariane, Fumba introduces himself by his full name and job title, Monster Sorcerer. He goes on to explain the extent of his skill in his profession which concerns Ark and then spots the rings attached to his belt match the ones he's encountered before in his travels. Figuring that Ark doesn't believe him, Fumba summons his white tiger monster to deal with him. Ark places Ariane at a safe distance and asks Fumba about the elves who arrived there 4 months ago. Fumba then reveals that while most of them were sent to the Empire for their magical experiments, the remaining ones were used for his amusement. Hearing that, Ark slices off the monster's head with a single swipe and admits that he's encountered a fair amount of villainy since he's arrived in that land. However, to Ark's confession, Fumba's actions have fervently stroked the flames of his rage to a fever pitch. Unfazed by this, Fumba summons a horde of monsters, but Ark briskly deals with them all with his sword and skills like shield bash. Still unfazed by this outcome, Fumba points out that Ariane is in a pinch, and Ark then sees that an orc was about to crush her with its club. However, the orc is entrapped in a body of water called Liquid Prison created by Chiyome. Although Fumba tries to summon more monsters, he's told by Chiyome that her comrades have eliminated them all. Surprised by Chiyome's arrival, Chiyome reveals that she told Ariane that she and her comrades would arrive later. Ark realizes that Chiyome was Ariane's intel, and did not learn any of this from Ariane due to her prickly attitude. Just then the ground starts to tremor and Fumba claims that his masterpiece is hungry and they'll settle the score outside and flees the scene. Teleporting outside with Ariane in his arms and both Ponta and Chiyome on his shoulders, Ark recognizes the monster that escapes from the fortress as a Hydra. Ark notices the rings on the Hydra that emerged from the fortress, and Chiyome suggests a tactical retreat. However, before they can, the Hydra fires off a fireball straight at them. Fumba watches this through the Hydra and relishes his victory over Ark's group. A flashback shows Fumba being rejected by his clan for being weak as he sought superficial power. He would later gain an audience with Emperor Domitianus and Lord Chancellor Valmoas and would be granted some authority in his land in exchange for his loyalty. Back in the present, Fumba sends the Hydra to Kasek to feed upon its inhabitants. Meanwhile, Ark and Chiyome are shown to be both alive as Ark's shield magic protected them. Ariane was also alive and was experiencing a calm rage, revealing that although she was in a trance, she could hear everything that Fumba said about what happened to the captured elves. Despite Ariane wanting to go after Fumba, Ark suggested that he hunt the Hydra heading for Kasek. Figuring Ark could do it alone, Chiyome and Ariane go by themselves to hunt Fumba. In the Holy East Revlon Empire, Valmoas gives Emperor Domitianus an update concerning the Destroyer of Nations, and the rings of submission created from the analysis of Fumba's sorcery are nearly complete. The Hydra was closing in on Kasek, and the city guards raised an alarm as the head guard ordered preparations for an evacuation. Catching up to the Hydra, Ark uses his Wyvern Slash to catch its attention and follows up with a Shield Bash and Armor Lariat. An astonished Fumba witnesses this as it plays out, and then Ark dodges its Flame Breath with a Dimension move. But one of the heads bites down on him. Despite the other heads about to fire off fireballs at the entrapped Ark, he defends himself with his magic, and in the process, the head that entrapped him is destroyed. Using his judgment skill, Ark destroys 3 of the Hydra heads, only for them to regenerate. Teleporting to a safe distance, Ark prepares to use a magic spell he's never used before and summons Ifrit to face off against the Hydra. Elsewhere, Ponta leads Ariane and Chiyome to Fumba's location, and he was amused by Ariane's presence, figuring she was there to become his. After a brief back and forth talk between Fumba and her, Fumba tries to possess Ariane again with some imp, but she kills them before he can. Chiyome also scars his back, revealing he had a special spellcrest seal on his back that helped him control his monsters. Fumba warns them that the Hydra is now out of his control and will kill everyone in the city. Ariane then assures Chiyome that everything will be alright because Ark is down there to fight against the Hydra, and then proceeds to incinerate Fumba with her flame sword. Back to Ark's side, through the combined efforts of Ark and his summon, Ifrit, they destroy the Hydra. Once Ark regroups with Ariane, Chiyome, and Ponta, a whisper bird sent by Danka arrives and conveys that Princess Ariane has met with one of the great Elven elders, Fangus. The meeting between them was to settle the matters between their respective kingdoms. Prince's sect and Dakars are mentioned as conspirators with the Revlon Empire as well. Princess Ariane promises that if the Revlon Empire invaded the Elven lands, the Olev Kingdom would help defend them. Fangus agrees to these terms and shakes Ariane's hand on it. Returning to Ark's group, they walk down a dirt path. Ark and the group talk about the coexistence between humans and elves. In the kingdom of Olav, Cetrian reports to Prince Sex that Princess Ariane survived, and her negotiations with the elves were a success. Considering the possibility of a double agent, Prince Sex brushes this off and claims an alternate path to achieve their goal will be taken. In her room, Ariane believes that she died once before but was brought back to life to fulfill her angel's wishes. News of the deaths of the Hydra and Fumba reach Domitianus, who considers it no loss whatsoever and is curious to know who slew the Hydra. Meanwhile, Ark unintentionally reveals his face to Chiyome and is then filled in on Ark's condition. It's decided that after they reach Lalatoya, Ariane will guide Ark to Lord Crown. Excited about that trip, Ark also asks to see Chiyome's hometown, and she sheepishly agrees. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to a close. If you enjoyed delving into the world of anime with me, and would like more recaps like this, hit that subscribe button. Liked what you saw? Don't forget to show your love with a thumbs up. I'm always interested in hearing your thoughts, so drop a comment and let's get a conversation going. Stay tuned for more exciting recaps. Until next time.